ladies and gentlemen, to the group exhibit Hydrogen Fuel Cells and Batteries, here to our public forum. We have all the day discussions here on stage all about hydrogen fuel cells and batteries, and the next one will be very interesting. I can promise that to you, because it's about hydrogen as a fuel. This is just speeding up, so let's see what the news developments are in this field. I'm very happy to have here the head of hydrogen solutions of the Linde Group with me, Herrn Markus Bachmeier, and there he comes. Please give him a big hand. Mr. Bachmeier, hey, it's a pleasure having you on stage. Just sit down. And you're all invited to have a seat, have a drink on the house, and to participate in that discussion. So whenever you have a question, just let me know. Give me the raise of your hand, so I'll come to you with a microphone. Mr. Bachmeier, the Linde Group, I would like to introduce you a little bit. The Linde Group is a world-leading gases and engineering company with approximately 50,000 employees working in more than 100 countries worldwide. As the world's largest supplier of hydrogen plants and founder member of the Clean Energy Partnership, you are very interested in establishing hydrogen as a green transportation fuel. That is the basics, but at the moment, more than 75%, maybe 90, maybe 95% is of this hydrogen is produced by gas reforming. That's not green at all, is it?
Well, it's not that bad. It's not that bad because it's based on natural gas and steam. So you have water and natural gas, and you get out hydrogen. And yes, there's some carbon dioxide. What the good thing about it is it's very efficient. So it's very cost efficient, low cost. It's out there. It's established, and it's been used in the industrial gases side for 90 to 100 years. So the people involved know how to handle that kind of gas.
What many people do not know is that hydrogen is, since a long time, in the industry. It's used for raffinating processes in the food industry. You need a lot of hydrogen, so you have a lot of experience with hydrogen, haven't you?
Yeah. So most of the hydrogen actually never goes out of the plant. It's being produced, and it goes, for example, into refineries where it's needed to desulfurize oil. And again, that's a big impact on the environmental friendliness of the fuels that you get out there at the end of the day.
So when we talk here about hydrogen, we always think about electrolyzers, renewable energies, you know. But in a reformated process, you still have the CO2 in the end. Why do you do that? It's not. Is it green in any kind of solution?
I would say it's an interim step, because even if you use natural gas plus steam reforming, which means a lot of water in there, and the water is going to be split into hydrogen as well in that process, and you run it into those cars or those buses which you see out there, you still can lower the overall carbon dioxide footprint by around 30%. And 30%, I think, if you have that on a wide scale, that's already a lot. That's already a lot. It's not 100%, it's not 90%, but I think it's a good starting point. And again, it's not either or. We also work on a lot of production pathways for purely green hydrogen. For example, since the last Hannover Fair, we opened together with our partner Siemens and the Mainz local utility and the University of Applied Sciences in the Rhineland. We opened what is called Energiepark Mainz, which is a 6 megawatt electrolyzer that is able to provide enough hydrogen, if you only put it into cars, to provide enough hydrogen to run 1,300 cars. And 1,300 cars is around 10 times as many cars as we have today in the country. So we are also investing into green and renewable pathways to make sure when traffic picks up that there is always enough conventional and green hydrogen to fill those cars.
It's a very German thinking, isn't it? We always want to do it 100%, you know, 100% green, and don't see that if you can reach a 30% increase or decrease in CO2 production, that would be a big step if we can do it at a large scale. And that's exactly what you're promoting. Fuel cells are very efficient conversion devices for hydrogen.
Yeah, and what we also think, especially when it comes, for example, to buses, you don't only have that carbon dioxide impact on the atmosphere, but you also have that local impact that the buses are much more silent than conventional buses, and the only exhaust is really water vapor. So the people who live along the street where the bus commutes, not only the people who run the bus and who sit in the bus, the passengers, but the people who live there, they benefit. And they benefit 14 hours a day, 16 hours a day, because that's the kind of time a bus is on the road every day.
And as you pointed out, Mr. Bachmeier, you're already producing completely green hydrogen, like in mines. Also in Quebec, you do the liquidation of hydrogen, all with water power. So you could really sell some like certificates of 100% green hydrogen, couldn't you? Like virtual green hydrogen. Like we have in our electricity in our houses in Germany, you know, we also can buy contracts with green energy.
Yeah, we should probably think about that and build a new business line on that one as well. But I hope we'll need that green hydrogen very, very soon for the cars and for the buses.
I mentioned at the beginning that Linde is a member of the Clean Energy Partnership, because you want hydrogen as a fuel to speed up, of course, and we need hydrogen refilling stations for that. 50 hydrogen refilling stations, you said, until the end of 2015. We have 2016 now. What happened to the rest? Only 20 are running.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. It's been a more difficult pathway than we ever thought. There's a number of reasons, but I think those reasons are interesting, but they're not really relevant. We work like hell to get as many of those stations, and you know that Daimler promised 10 out of those 50 stations, and Linde promised to build and invest 10 out of those 50 stations. We're working like hell to get the last contracts closed with operators, to get those stations built, and to get as many of those 20, Daimler 10, Linde 10, built by the end of the year, or maybe some may leak a little bit into 2017. But then when you look at it, when you look at those 20 plus the other partner stations, let's make it 40 stations. You multiply 40 stations by 400 cars per station. That's what the average station can fill if it's running, if it's not running flat out, but if it's running in that morning and afternoon mode. So 40 stations times 400 cars again makes 16,000 cars. And again, we hope to see 16,000 cars on the road very, very soon, and we're quite optimistic.
You know, they are not producing so many.
But 16,000 is not that many.
Toyota is producing 3,000 this year for all the world.
Yes, that's right, but still, others are going to join the game. We're probably not going to have 16,000 cars on the road next year or the year after next year. But what I want to convey to you, and what is really important, that in terms of infrastructure, we need to go ahead. Infrastructure needs to be out there first, and then the cars have to come. So that's why we're building those stations, which is quite a financial investment for all the parties that are involved. Please don't forget that. Even if we get funding, and we get, I think, a very solid funding in this country and in many other countries, but still, it's a lot of money, and we need to get these cars, because otherwise we'll have stranded investments out there.
But that's a very good answer to the chicken and egg problem, I've heard now. This is say, well, we first need the infrastructure and then we need the cars. So because many people say, well, we can't have the infrastructure without the cars, because how can we earn money from that? And you will be the operator of these refueling stations. Will you lose the money then, or who will?
No, most of the time we won't operate them. The operators are in this country, and it's different in other countries. In this country, the operators are typically oil companies, either established conventional gasoline and diesel stations or greenfield gasoline and diesel stations. So that's the typical operator. We will operate maybe one or two of those stations, but the bulk of the stations will be on public fueling stations.
Maybe there are better markets for fuel cell vehicles like Germany is, with all these other countries around, because we need an infrastructure there as well, because people from Germany go to France or to Italy to have their holiday there. Japan is a good example, isn't it? Japan is a small island, and nobody would think about driving his car from Toyota to Shanghai.
Yeah, I think Japan has a number of important properties. Many of those Germany has as well. One is population and traffic density. One is public wealth, because you need some kind of public funding in the early years. One is private wealth, because these cars are more expensive than ordinary cars. One is cooperation between different industries. car industry, oil industry, industrial gas industry, and government on the other hand. That works very well in Japan. I think that works very well in Germany as well. It works very well in California, for example. And one is you need a long-term positive perspective for investment. Because I think nobody wants to invest into an infrastructure that will be loss-making or that will require public subsidies forever. And when we do the numbers, we come to a conclusion that in the medium to long term, you can make money on fueling hydrogen. In the medium to long term. If the cars come.
Of course, yeah. And you managed already to have 18 refueling stations in Japan, which is pretty good indeed. And also California is pretty good. You have you're aiming at 100 stations there.
Yeah. I think those are some of the key markets. Plus probably China, plus probably Korea, plus probably the Nordic countries. Hopefully UK, hopefully Benelux. We see a lot of development in France. But again, when you talk about infrastructure, when you talk about the investment into infrastructure, you want to focus on those areas where it makes most sense. Or to put it very bluntly, I think it makes more sense to put 100 stations into the Netherlands and get a nationwide coverage than to put 500 stations equally dispersed all over Europe from Finland to Portugal. Because you need that kind of density.
Then maybe fleets are a good solution, especially bus fleets. We have already some in Germany. We have some worldwide. Actually, I just learned that there are 300 buses in Korea waiting. No, even more. 26,000 buses, 6,000 buses in Korea waiting for retrofit.
Yeah, we heard a number which was 26,000.
Really, 26,000. I didn't believe my own writing here.
And natural gas buses to be converted to hydrogen buses. Honestly, it's so many. I find it very hard to believe because most of the bus projects we see are now 10 buses, 20. We are looking at the European Union bus study where we want to go to 500 to 1,000 buses in 2020 across 10 to 15 cities. So that number in Korea sounds very, very impressive. I don't know when it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, but it shows you which direction those developments go.
Even if Europe will work with 500 to 1,000 buses they are planning, it will be also a big thing, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and we think fleets, again, from an infrastructure perspective, fleets are easier to cater to than private customer passenger cars. Because with a fleet, mostly the vehicles come back in the evening, so you only need one station to provide fuel to 50, 100, 200 vehicles. And that's one of the big advantages.
But Mr. Bachmeier, we want to get out of the niche market. We want to bring fuel cell cars in broad quantities on the streets. So in the end, we will finally need 1,000 refueling stations in Germany alone, at the least.
Yeah, and we have 14,000 conventional stations, so 1,000 would be a good interim step. But we probably don't need 14,000. When most of us were kids in the 70s and 80s, we had 40,000 stations, and still with 14,000, I think everyone lives close enough to one of those stations. So let's see. The first ones are the most difficult ones, no doubt about it, because the first ones are the ones where the economic risk is highest. If you have 400 stations out there, if you have 250,000 cars out there, if you see that customers love these cars, if you see that all big car manufacturers bring product, then it's easier to find investors into station number 401, number 402, number 403. So that's the big difference. The first stations are the most challenging ones.
And it's not only the stations, also the cars you have to bring to the roads, and that's what you do actually. It's very interesting to see Linde as as an initiator of a car sharing project. We can see at your booth the Hyundai iX35 fuel cell, and you really plan to install 50 of them in Munich to go into the mountains.
Yeah. So we made a decision that it makes sense in that early phase. To bring that experience of driving these cars, and these are really great cars, to bring that experience to as many people as possible. And so we thought, what different ways are there? Of course, we could have taken 50 cars and put them into our company fleet, but that would have meant that 50 or 100 people get
must
that experience.
it, yeah.
So another alternative would have been taxis, for example. But at the end of the day, we decided to go for car sharing. And as you said, it's 50 cars, 50. Those cars will be based in Munich. Those cars will be targeted at people who want to go in an environmental friendly way, but who still want to have a longer range than you have with a battery car. And you know that many of those car sharing companies have battery cars in their portfolio, like Drive Now with i3, Car2Go with the Electric Smart. But we wanted to bring to those people a car that allows them to go to the mountains, which are 50 to 100 kilometers from Munich, have a great day out there, and then come back to Munich. Or go to the lakes, which are like 40 to 50 kilometers out there, have a great day there, and then come back to Munich. And that's the reason behind that car sharing model.
For those of you who say, well, I would like to drive a fuel cell car, it's a possibility. Just outside the hall, there's a ride and drive area where you can test these fuel cell cars. And Linde has a mobile refilling station there, a hydrogen refilling station there. Is it a business model or is it just for demonstration projects?
So the hydrogen trailer which you see out there, and you should have a look, and there 3 times a day there are fillings of the cars. So it's like in the zoo where they feed the lions 3 times a day. Have a look at it. It's not a big business, of course, but we see increasing demand for that kind of trailer for events like here. We also get increasing numbers of requests from car manufacturers who want to do test drives in the mountains on their test tracks. In Norway or in Sweden, northern Sweden, for example, in hot countries like Spain in summer, to test their cars for a week or for 2 weeks. So this trailer is pretty much booked out.
Mr. Bachmeier, it was a pleasure having you here on stage. The time has already run out. We did some overtime already. We wanted to talk a little bit about the refueling technology as well, but I would like to advise every one of you just to visit the booth of Linde just over there, and then you can see all this refueling technology. You can even touch the B0. It's quite interesting to see that. It was a pleasure having you here, Mr. Bachmeier.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks a lot.
Thank you for your attention as well.
Hey, thank you. And Linde booth is over there, and we'll be happy to see you there. Thanks a lot.
Okay, and after just 1 minute, we will see Ralf Schanz here on stage. He is here already, Sales Manager Dach of Heliocentris Academia GmbH. He will talk about new innovative training and research system, hybrid energy lab system. Just stay tuned. Thank you.